Let's go! It's gonna be a football game tonight now, no doubt. It's gonna be a football game here. Okay. I done been here before. All right, let's go, baby.
9. Rushing 4, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, and it's still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Vaughn Miller did it again.
Alabama back on top of the college football world.
Ladies and gentlemen, football to the max.
Your host, Sean Garmer, Gary Vaughn, and Randy Isbell.
Hello and welcome to NFL edition of Football to the Max. Man, guys, that week 1, it's so close. You can smell it, taste it, and everything else. But been a little bit. We took a little bit of a time off to sort of just focus on college and everything. But how have things been going?
Going great. I was just gonna say I was just filling my time up with fantasy football drafts, getting ready for Thursday.
Yeah. And those drafts are so much fun, and I love doing them. But the one thing is after you get through with all that and the dust settles, then you got to make sure your lineups are set and everybody's healthy on your teams, and that's the next process.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We've had so many drafts. I don't know how many leagues I'm in this year. There's some I've had to just allow to auto draft because I'm just like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do another draft sitting there for 2 hours. But yeah, we got one more, Gary. The WTM League number 2 draft tomorrow, and then we're done. Or at least I'm done. I don't know about you guys, but I'm done with drafting. Then we just get to focus on that first game and then that first weekend of fantasy football and everything else. But, we just got done talking about the college week 1, doing our top 25 polls. We get to do our first ever full power rankings here. And hopefully on the Friday morning show, we'll get to reveal while we're doing all this. We might have mentioned it here and there, so you probably already know what I'm hinting at, but we'll keep it a secret a little bit longer, and if you listen to Randy's show, you already know what it is. But
yeah, we don't keep it secret very hard.
Yeah, you guys are bad about that.
We
but it's
suck
fine.
at secrets.
But, yeah, so we're doing our full 32-team power rankings. You can agree or disagree. You can, on those Facebook groups that we share this in, or on whether it's through Last Word, whether it's on Twitter, whatever, hit me up at WTM Sean, at Randy Isbell, at WTM Gary, to let us know what you think about these things. And, of course, we'll also be doing our playoff predictions. So we haven't done those yet. We did all the divisions, so we'll kind of reiterate our division winners here. We get to cheat a little bit, and if you change your mind on one, you get to change that here. And then, of course, your 2 wild cards for each conference, and then we'll have to run in and go through the brackets as well. But we're going to do that second. Right now, we're going to be doing a little bit of news with the big one, of course. Minnesota Vikings deciding to trade a 2017 first-round pick and a fourth-round pick to the Philadelphia Eagles, who have been playing this game. Sam Bradford has been playing this game since before the draft. And finally, a week before the season starts, Sam Bradford traded to Minnesota because they want to try to keep their team headed in the right direction without Teddy Bridgewater for this year after he tears his ACL, and I think he dislocated something as well. Guys, Randy, I know how you feel about this. But, Gary, how do you feel about this first?
This is a situation where, Minnesota was trying to find any kind of quarterback that could give them an opportunity to have a shot to win. And really, Sam Bradford was one of the better options I think they felt like they had, and I would have to agree with him, I guess. Out of all the other guys they could have chose from, there's not many out there that, really that were going to be available that they could have got to help him more than Sam Bradford, I guess, because unless you're a big Colin Kaepernick fan and you think that they could have traded for Kaepernick, or maybe you like another guy in this league, I just didn't see anybody out there myself personally. And I followed this pretty closely because, I follow the Dallas Cowboys, and trust me, we've been looking for quarterbacks too. Sam Bradford was out there and available, and I think he does give them a shot to have some victories, but I don't see him as being amazing. I really question the excitement of Minnesota fans. If they really are excited about Bradford, good for them. But I don't know that you get much out of this guy compared to what you had with Bridgewater.
Listen, I have zero problems trading for Bradford. I think he's a competent quarterback. I think he's a decent quarterback. Do I think I would put him anywhere in my top half? Probably not. But he's okay enough, and he's far better than Sean Hill. And I get that Minnesota felt like this was a great chance for them to compete with the Packers with their defense and Adrian Peterson and make a playoff run. I get it. I understand it. But giving away your first-round pick 1 week before the regular season for a quarterback who is a one-year rental is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in my entire life. Now, if Bridgewater was done for multiple years, if they just feel like, he's never going to be the same again, I can see it a little bit, because then Bradford is your future. But from all accounts, there's no nerve damage for Bridgewater. He should make a good recovery come next year, and everything should be back to the way it should be. So this is a 1-year rental, 1 week before the regular season. I don't get it. Not for a first-round pick. Yes, a trade needed to be done. A better quarterback needed to be in place for this team if they wanted to continue to contend this year. And yes, that window's closing as Adrian Peterson gets older. All of this I understand. The first-round pick thing, I don't. Listen, it's going to take Bradford a few weeks to get acclimated with the team, to get in sync with some of these receivers, to learn the playbook, which is going to be pretty basic from the beginning. It's going to be rough sailings at first, and they could put themselves a couple games back. This is your New England Patriots situation where they just need to hold on for the first 4 games before Brady gets back. Minnesota needs to hold on for the first 4 games before Bradford figures out this offense. And for them to give up a first-round pick when there were other quarterbacks out there who are okay enough that they could have got for far cheaper just astonishes me. A first-round pick for a guy that, if things go south, could lead you to a 5-11 season, and now you've given up a top 10 pick. Instead of waiting a day, waiting for cuts to go through, waiting for a Mark Sanchez to get cut, and then signing him instead of Dallas. Waiting for cuts to go through, and then, putting some feelers out there.
Hold on. How do we know Mark Sanchez wouldn't have got cut if that trade didn't go through?
But you wait that day. But why rush it? Why not wait until the teams have to make those cuts?
Rick Spielman himself said that there was sharks in the water going on. They had people wanting a player, not picks. They wanted a player and a first-round pick for Mike Glennon, for some of these other, for an A.J. McCarron, for some of these other guys that were out there that they could have legitimately tried to go after. And he says he watched all of Sam Bradford's games from last year and the year before. He has a former coach of Sam Bradford's. Remember, Adrian Peterson played with Bradford at Oklahoma. And he felt that this is the guy. This is the guy they needed to go after. He knew he was going to have to give up a first-round pick. That was pretty much standard for everybody. What, you're going to go get Michael Vick right now? Hell no. So, look, I felt, me personally, my thought of it is Sam Bradford has never had a team this good in his life. Maybe the Oklahoma team, and not even that. Okay? in his life, Sam Bradford has never had a team this talented. The team is also super young, aside from Adrian Peterson. Okay, so they're not going to die because they lost the first-round pick for next year. I don't think that the world is going to end because they lost that first-round pick. They don't necessarily have to have it. That team is loaded.
When Bradford doesn't sync with this team and they go 6-10, and now Philadelphia has 2 top 10 picks, and Minnesota is wondering what they're going to do with this Bradford person that they have just completely wasted their first round pick on, then we'll talk, because I don't see this being wonderful. I don't see this fixing the team and making them a playoff contender again. I don't see it. Not 1 week.
All they have to do is hang around. Beat Green Bay one of the 2 times and hang around. They don't have to.
You can't hang around in the NFC. It's too top heavy. It's not the AFC where it's mediocrity all over the place and there are 12 teams that can make the playoffs. This is the NFC where there's like 7 teams that are going to have a chance to make the playoffs, and now you're not one of them.
Well, we'll have to see if that's what the case is. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen this year during the season, who can get hurt, what team isn't as good as they were last year. I mean, we can all say this, and I'm not saying Sam Bradford's going to lead them to being 16-0 or whatever, nothing like that. If they're 9-7, I think that's a maybe. But, listen, there's no guarantee that Teddy Bridgewater is going to be this. Let's not sit here and act like Teddy Bridgewater was this awesome quarterback either. He was starting to progress and get better, and because he's younger and he hasn't had all the mileage and baggage that Sam Bradford has, we're looking at him in a more positive light. But this is still a guy that wasn't that great last year. Okay, and supposedly, they've gone out and got veterans to fix his offensive line, and let's see if that's the case, because in Philadelphia, he was going to get sacked every 10 seconds. So, he's in a better spot that way, too. You can have more confidence that way. But he has a better receiver core, a better running back. He has no excuses if he fails. That's number one.
No, he has a huge excuse. He's had 6 days to prepare.
That's that first game. After a while, you got to learn that playbook. It doesn't matter. What the hell else are you doing?
It's going to take a while. There's a difference between the playbook and getting in sync. That's why training camp is so important. That's why these holdouts are so important. It's getting in sync with the receivers.
The defense is good enough to have them hang around in a couple games and they win by just not letting the other team score. I mean, and this is still QB. He's still a quarterback that's been around. The dude knows how to play. It's not like you can't simplify the offense and say, okay, here's what you're going to be doing for the first couple of weeks. Just get the ball where it needs to be. And then after that, Yeah.
Well, you talk to me when he calls the wrong check down, gets hit, gets hurt, and then they don't have a first-round pick to trade.
Okay, well, that's true. That can happen. I'm just...
Awesome.
Yeah, I think the chemistry thing is a very important thing here, and I think I could maybe meet you guys in the middle. I don't know if it's going to take Bradford forever to get it down, but I think it's going to be a big learning curve. I think it's going to be a big learning curve for the people around him. Adrian Peterson has never taken a handoff from this guy before. They don't know each other very well. And
in the NFL.
In the NFL, yes. I'm sorry. Excuse me. You're right. I'm sorry. In college, but it's been years since these guys have played together, and so maybe they pick it up a little quicker. I don't know, but you also got to think McKinnon, everybody else. They've all got to get acclimated, and as much as it's up to Sam Bradford and how much he studies, everybody else is going to work together with this guy. And Sean Hill, game one, is going to be the guy that's ready and most prepared. Even though he may not be the most talented guy, he's the guy that you can trust at this minute, despite the fact that maybe the talent level isn't there. I just have a lot of fear because Sam Bradford has not been the most successful guy. Sure, you've got tape on him to show some flashes. Hey, last preseason, let's go back and listen to some shows. I thought Sam Bradford, was going to go and rule the world. In fact, when Philadelphia got him, I thought, man, this is the end. They're going to win the NFC East every year. And then the next thing you know, this guy is just not what advertised. So,
Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I mean, lots of things can happen. He can get hurt in the first game, and all this is exactly what Randy's saying, or they could do well, or they can do middling, or whatever. But the fact is, this leaves the Eagles with 2 quarterbacks now instead of 3. You got Chase Daniel and Carson Wentz, who's coming off that rib injury, and Carson Wentz now is going to be thrown into the fire. It's not like the Rams where Jared Goff is now QB number 3 in that on the LA Rams. Carson Wentz, you go sign Chase Daniel for all that money, and you're just going to go, okay, Carson Wentz, you're starting game number 1. After coming off a rib injury, which there's no joke, shouldn't he be sitting at least a couple of games? I mean, if you're Doug Peterson and you've had Chase Daniel with you from Kansas City, shouldn't you trust that guy enough to be your starter for a couple of games and let Carson Wentz sort of carry the clipboard a little bit? I mean, you're going to just talk about getting acclimated. He's going to get acclimated really fast.
Yeah, but listen, the Eagles are doing it exactly opposite of Minnesota. Minnesota is trying to hang on to a playoff spot and doing everything they can. Again, I think a little bit too much. The Eagles have now just went, listen, this isn't going to work. Sam Bradford was not going to work for us. He wanted out. So let's just build for the future. And if Wentz can go, and that's what they've said, is it's up to his healing and how his ribs are doing. But if he is good to go physically, they're going to throw him out there. They're going to get him acclimated right now. This is going to be an ugly season for Eagles fans, and they just have to suck it up because, listen, they are hoping that Sam Bradford doesn't work out from Minnesota, and they're going to have 2 top 10 first-round picks to then add on to Carson Wentz, who will have that year of experience. They're hoping that this guy that they drafted early on, they moved up to get this guy, is like a Peyton Manning who got thrown to the fire, looked completely awful his rookie season. They put the pieces around him, and he became one of the best quarterbacks in the world. Will Carson Wentz reach that level? No. But they're hoping that throwing him out there now with 0 expectations, going, listen, we don't care if you go 1-15. We would prefer it because we get to move up in the draft and go out and get some of these top linemen to then help you out. Go for it. Learn the NFL system and be great in a few years. I think they got Daniels to be that backup so Wentz could go slowly, and I think they've just learned in this offseason that this team is just not where they were hoping it was, and they're hitting the reset button.
I get that, and you almost don't want to say that a team comes into the season and says, we're playing for next year. I really don't know if that's the case, but at the same point, I get it. You want your quarterback to have as much experience as he can get, and especially as a rookie, he needs to get his feet wet and make all his mistakes, and if it's this year, it's this year. Really, honestly, they weren't moving forward with Sam Bradford anyway, so I think they kind of started evaluating that and saying, well, so what? He plays a year with us, and we're starting over again with a new quarterback next year. Why don't we go ahead and start the experiment now? Let's pull the Band-Aid off now. That way we'll get the reward sooner than later, and I think that's the way they felt about it. Daniels is a great backup guy. I don't even think with Chase Daniels quarterback in this team they're going to be any better. So I think that's the decision-making that they had to go through, and I think they made a call that I honestly can't blame him for. Sure, is Carson Wentz going to come out there and blow us all away? I don't think so. But at the same point, after this year, he's going to have the experience to maybe go into next year with the confidence, and we'll see. But this is an interesting move.
Yeah, certainly interesting, and we'll have to see what comes of it, obviously. More quarterback carousel here. Austin Davis, who the Cowboys were looking at one point, signs with the Broncos. Trevor Siemian, of course, named the starter for the Broncos. And then Mark Sanchez comes over to the Dallas Cowboys, Gary. Now, a report came out today that Jerry Jones has said, we do not plan on Mark Sanchez taking a snap for the Cowboys at all. because between Tony Romo and Dak Prescott, he should not have to play. That should be the case, correct?
Yes, and from what I hear from the interview I heard from Mark Sanchez, and just from everything that I'm gathering, the Dallas Cowboys really wanted a security blanket. That's what Sanchez is. He's a security blanket. He's a guy that's played in the league for a long time. He's had some success. He's had a lot of failure too. But he's a veteran when it comes to the position at quarterback. And they really want a guy that Dak Prescott can depend on to go to the sideline and really talk to. Tony Romo is going to be busy getting ready and preparing to maybe hopefully have a shot at getting back in this game before the end of the season. So I think Sanchez is supposed to be there as the old veteran that's going to give little tidbits of wisdom to Dak Prescott as the season goes and as they await Romo's return. So I think that's what Jerry Jones is pointing out there. That's what I've heard. I think that's why they didn't want Austin Davis. They kind of felt like Austin Davis was not going to be a good teacher. So we'll see. But I mean, I kind of hope Jerry Jones is exactly right on that. I hope that they are not starting Sanchez. Hopefully it's just a security blanket. And, it is what it is with Austin Davis. I mean, we'll see. Denver, of course, needed help at quarterback too, but I think they're pretty set at what they're doing.
Yeah, Jerry Jones probably watched the blooper reel and saw that play in the preseason of Dak Prescott and Alfred Morris, hugging on to the football together as they ran across the line of scrimmage and went, that's a good blooper, but we need to bring in the king of bloopers. We need Dak Prescott to learn from the man. So they brought in Mark Sanchez.
That's right.
But no, in all seriousness, I think that's exactly what this is. This is the security blanket until they hope Tony Romo heals up, just in case something happens to Dak Prescott. Even if he goes out there and stinks up the show, which I don't think he's going to stink it up. I think he's going to have a lot of bumps in the road, but I think he's going to be okay enough. But they're going to keep him out there no matter what, unless something bad does happen, he gets injured. You need somebody like Sanchez that can go in there. He's been in a few different systems. He's been on the field. He's been able to play decent enough when it is his team to go out there and just be the security blanket, as Gary said, just in case.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're done with the news here. Let's get into this, guys. Our first ever full power rankings that we're doing on the show here. Of course, this is a average between Randy, Gary, Mike, Mitchell from the fantasy podcast that Randy does here, and Brandon Bisco being, of course, as well, who you've heard on the podcast talking about the Giants or just been calling in, just like the college podcast, and myself. So it's an average of 5 people.
Well, to be fair, there's 5 of us this week. Brandon has been kicked off. Brandon's off the list.
Brandon's off the list because you just didn't like the fact that he put your Jets at 20. Stop.
Exactly.
So, okay, here we go with the top 10. The top 10 teams heading into week 1. Carolina at number 1. Of course, your Super Bowl runner-ups. Arizona Cardinals at number 2. The Seattle Seahawks at number 3. Green Bay Packers at number 4. New England Patriots, even without Tom Brady for those 4 games, at number 5. Kansas City Chiefs at number 6. Cincinnati Bengals number 7. Pittsburgh Steelers number 8. The Super Bowl champions coming in number 9, the Denver Broncos. And then Randy's New York Jets rounded out at number 10. Guys, anything you want to discuss here? Anything that stands out to you after doing the averages?
Well, to me, I think the top 9 are a step ahead of everybody else. I am surprised that the Jets do finish 10th there. That's where I put them, but again, I'm a homer, so I figured you guys would bring the average down. Gary had them 7th. I want to hear about that. Thank you, Gary. But no super surprises here. I'm usually the kind of guy that the first power rankings, the Super Bowl champion stays up top, but when you lose Peyton Manning and you go to Trevor Siemian, I can't do it. So I leave Carolina up there as the other Super Bowl contender who hasn't really lost a ton. They lose Josh Norman, but get Kelvin Benjamin back. But other than that, the top 9 really don't surprise me much.
Yeah, I had Seattle number one just because of their defense is still their defense, and you got Russell Wilson running around, and those receivers have gotten better, and the question is that running back, but I think between what they got there, they'll figure it out. But yeah, like you said, that top nine, those teams are going to be, unless Trevor Siemian just totally is terrible, which he shouldn't be, or he wouldn't have won that job. They're going to be contending. They're going to be in the mix for whatever division they're in, and certainly for the playoffs going forward. Gary, anything for you here on these top 10?
Yeah, and the reason I did kind of rank the New York Jets a little higher, I mean, I think their defense is going to bring it, and I really feel like that they're going to make life hard for a lot of the teams. And offensively, if you ask me, bringing Fitzpatrick back, that's like a glove. He just comes right back in, does his job. I don't think that that's a hiccup just because he took a lot longer to sign. It's not like he joined a new team, so I'm not worried about that at all. And, of course, the rest of this offense just kind of got better. And so I think that adds more to this team. I think that Matt Forte is going to be a big boost to this offense. And for me personally, I think they're going to be a tough, difficult team to mess with, and that's why I kind of ranked them higher.
Fair enough. Let's move on to the next set here. We got Oakland at number 11, Indianapolis at number 12, Jacksonville number 13, Houston and Washington are actually tied, but you got Houston at 14 and Washington at 15. You got the Giants at 16, Minnesota 17, Buffalo 18, Tampa Bay 19, and Baltimore Ravens rounding it out at number 20. Anything here in this middle 10?
Well, the thing that jumps out to me is you go back to our top 10. Our first four teams were all NFC teams. The next NFC team on our list was tied for 14th with Washington. To say that the NFC is top-heavy is an understatement.
I agree with that. It is. And, Washington's a team that I think a lot of people think is probably one of the most balanced teams in maybe that conference just because they have added a lot on offense and the defense is just solid. So, but, I think that Oakland being at 11 is fine. They're an up-and-coming team. It wouldn't surprise me if they don't crack that top 10. I think a lot of Oakland, so I feel like it's a pretty good place to put them. So, and of course, Houston's another team in here that you're really interested in following and seeing what they can do. I think the Giants, that's the one team that concerns me. I'm fearful that this may be the one team we're looking at that actually may have been deserving of a lower ranking.
Yeah, and Minnesota's weird too because they probably would have been much lower, but I think Mike and Brandon must have been on some kind of weird spell where they forgot who the quarterback is now. They had him at like 10. So that's weird. They must like Sam Bradford more than me.
Yeah, they believe in Bradford, I guess.
Yeah, so this is weird. I mean, I think watch out for Tampa Bay. I think they could be a surprise this season. Jacksonville, of course, has been the sexy team for everybody. And the Raiders as well have been certainly a sexy team. So this should be fun. And the AFC South is going to be one of those divisions I think everybody's going to want to watch. So this should be nice to see how much of these power rankings are going to be the same when you get into it for this next week. So number 21, Tennessee. Number 22, the Dallas Cowboys. Atlanta at number 23. The Los Angeles Rams at 24. Miami Dolphins at 25. Tied for 26 is the Detroit Lions and the New Orleans Saints. Technically, it's 26 and 27. So let's stop there. In this sort of low, you get into the lower teams here. What are you thinking?
Tennessee is a team that I really look at and say that they're once again another team that I could see cracking a higher number and maybe not being in this range. But at the same point, you got to look at their defense and the fact that their defense isn't exactly ready. I think to face some of the teams they'll be facing. But offensively, I look for them to be a really solid unit because they can run the ball without any problem. And I really think Mariota after some more experience, is going to give them opportunities that they didn't have last year. So saying that, I mean, that's interesting. And, of course, Dallas being one of these teams down here, you just really wonder how good they're going to be. Are they going to be in this range? Are they going to be able to make things happen with a rookie quarterback and be at this point or, of course, lower?
Yeah, basically the way I look at it is all the teams that are in this range in our power rankings are teams that it wouldn't shock me if they got themselves into playoff contention. Maybe it would shock me if they were competing for divisions and such. But for those last wild cards, I could see it, but there's just a few questions that I need answers first, more than these other teams. So in this tier, it's a lot of just what ifs right now.
Exactly. It's like they could certainly go anywhere. I mean, Dallas is one. Atlanta is another. They could go anywhere. New Orleans could be. Who knows with that offense? I mean, Detroit as well, Miami as well. Just these are teams that's like you don't know how high their ceiling is, but they could certainly have a really low floor if things don't work out. And then getting into these teams that I think we kind of know where they are. They should be at these spots where we have them here. At number 28, Chicago, the Chicago Bears. 29, San Diego Chargers. Sorry, Rochelle, but this is not Gary's fault. Philadelphia Eagles at number 30, Cleveland Browns 31, and San Francisco 49ers. Everybody had the 49ers as the bottom team.
And I just want to correct something. This was Gary's fault that San Diego was 29. He had them at the lowest at 30. So, Rochelle, go ahead and send your hate mail.
You don't need to tell her to send the hate mail. She already sends it. I get messages. Yeah. I get messages like at least once a day about, well, you know where to send this one to. I'm like, man, I think Gary's mailbox is full with these.
Yeah, it is. Oof. Man, at least I have fire for the winter. But yeah, this is interesting.
You should print them out and hang them up on the wall. Get all the hate.
It may look like a serial killer is in the house. So saying that, I mean, you make a good point. I love Phillip Rivers, and I think that San Diego has some things to offer, but still, I don't trust the defense, and I think that they're going to be behind in a lot of games, and I just don't expect them to win many of those games they're behind in. So I put him pretty low. I know Philadelphia was another team. I'm very concerned with that, and I'd rank them really low as well.
Yeah, certainly. Chicago's a team that you never wonder how much Jay Cutler really was able to sink in from Adam Gase, and if any of that's going to translate over with this new coaching, with the new offensive coordinator. And, I mean, the defense certainly improved, but can they be that sort of defense of old where you can rely on them to make turnovers to make it easier on that team? Don't know. Rest of everybody that's there, they're kind of going to be at that bottom.
And I just want it to be known that because we've done our first ever full-on power rankings here on the podcast, that Cleveland and San Francisco are going to the Super Bowl just to spite us.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, with Blaine Gabbert at quarterback, is Colin Kaepernick officially not the starter?
Yeah, so don't sit on San Francisco, right?
Oh, boy. Well, Kaepernick will be doing less sitting.
Yeah.
So, he's already doing it, so he's fine where he's at. So we move on from the power rankings to our playoff predictions. So here's where we get to cheat, and I know we did these whole series of previews with all these different people, writers and fans and everything else. But hey, look, so much happens in those 2 months leading up to this. We've already talked about, Vikings losing Teddy Bridgewater, all the quarterback changes, just some players that have already been injured that changes their team as well. Teddy Romo's injured for a long time, what that does to the Cowboys. So this is your chance. This is your, whatever you say here, this is your final division winners and your wild cards for each conference. These are the people that are going to be going to the playoffs. and these cannot be changed. So hopefully you made your choices wisely, and then you kind of go through your brackets, have your Super Bowl, and who wins it all at the end. So let's start with the playoff teams, guys. Who you got, Gary?
Well, do you want to start in the AFC or NFC?
Let's start with the NFC.
Okay, well, the NFC, one of my top teams is Green Bay. I think Green Bay is actually going to be a team that gets a bye. I like them a lot. And, of course, Carolina is, of course, my number 1 seed, if you're asking me. Seeding.
Yeah, so make sure you go in order of the seeding.
Okay, so Carolina, Green Bay, those two guys are going to, of course, be tops, number 1 and number 2. I feel like, we're going to get Seattle as going to be the 3rd seed, and Washington will round out the 4th. And then I have got, let's see here, I've actually got, a team that maybe surprises people, but I am going to put Arizona as a wild card team. I know people may have already had them winning the division, but I think that they'll be a wild card, and to round out in the 6th seed will be the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like they're going to find a way to sneak in.
All right. AFC, Gary.
Okay, well, this is also another situation where people may say you're crazy, but I actually, believe it or not, have New England at number 1 seed. I just think they're going to find a way to win. Tom Brady's going to be trying to prove a point, right? He's going to be aggravated, and once again, he's going to shock us. And then, of course, the next seed is a little more difficult. I think we're going to have it, but I'm going to pick Kansas City, actually, as that next team. I know it may be a surprise, but I just feel like some way, somehow, they're going to do really good and prove to people that, no, this system is working. And then after that, for my number 3 seed, I'm going to go ahead and go with I'm going with Cincinnati here. I feel like Cincinnati is going to find a way. They're just going to get to that next step, and we'll see how far they go, but I think they'll get the 3rd seed. And, of course, looking at it further, I'm going to give my number 4 to Indianapolis. I originally did not pick these guys to go very far, but looking at it now, there's so much going on. I think that the one team that I did not pick is going to make it, so I'm going to Indianapolis over Houston, over Tennessee, even Jacksonville. I just think somehow, some way, they're going to surprise us all. And then, of course, the teams that I'm going to pick in the wild card, and, of course, number 5 is going to be Oakland. I think Oakland is a really good team. I just think that Kansas City may win one more game than they do and steal away that division. And I got the 6th spot for the New York Jets.
All right. Randy, start in the NFC.
All right, NFC, my top 5 are basically the same as Gary, a little different seeding. I have Green Bay with the top seed over Carolina, but those are my 2 bye teams. I have Arizona winning the NFC West and getting the 3 seed. I have the Washington Redskins winning the NFC East and being the 4 seed. My 2 wild cards is Seattle, and I like the New York Giants to come out as a second wild card. I probably would have put a Dallas here or a Minnesota if it wasn't for the injuries to the quarterbacks that they both have suffered. So I think the Giants slip in there under their new head coach. In the AFC, Gary was saying he had a bit of a surprise. I don't see it as much of a surprise. I have Kansas City as your number 1 seed. Yes, Oakland has improved, but I think Denver has fallen off and San Diego's awful. Gary said that, not me. So I think they get a few extra wins in the division. So I like them at the 1 seed. I have New England at the 2. I think if they go 2-2 without Brady in those first 4 games, they probably will run away with it in the AFC East. I also have Cincinnati winning their division and getting the 3 seed, and I'm sticking with the pick I made back in March. I like Jacksonville. Their defense has improved. I think they're going to win that division. Yes, Indianapolis gets Andrew Luck back, but if the preseason has any indication, which I know it means very little, that offensive line is still as terrible as it was last year. My 2 wildcard teams are the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I also will put my New York Jets in there at the 6th seed.
All right. Hold on. I'm trying to send Randy something, but my phone is not wanting to copy and paste it. Anyway, here we go with the NFC. I've got Green Bay number 1. I've got Arizona number 2. I've got Carolina number 3. I've got Seattle at. I don't know. Seattle will be the wild card. I've got. Damn it. What's the other? I got the Giants at number 4, winning the NFC East, and I've got Seattle at number 5, and I think the Cowboys are going to sneak in at 6. I think between Dak and and Romo, they'll get the thing done. They got that high-powered offense. The defense is a problem. Lots of questions. I think they can kind of hang in there, and they might have to score some teams, but I think they'll get it done. So we move on to the AFC. This is a little tougher for me. I think, Randy's pick of Kansas City looks very tempting right now, but I don't know if I can go that far.
Just remember, last year I had Kansas City in the Super Bowl, and they were 1 game away. I know my Chiefs. See if I can talk you into it.
Didn't they go to the divisional round and lose?
Maybe, I forget. I just remember I picked them to go to the Super Bowl, and they looked better than people thought.
Okay, I'm gonna go with sort of more of a safe pick here. I think the Steelers will wind up with the number 1. I will say that the Patriots will wind up with the number 2. I think somehow they're going to lose a little bit of the shine from Brady not being there, and you can have angry Brady all you want, but they're going to stumble a little bit more than, say, they did last year. I'm going to say Kansas City at number 3. I think they're definitely winning that division. And I think at number 4, this is rough for me to say because Oswald looks so bad. Yeah, I think by default I kind of have to go. I'm going to go with the Colts. The Colts haven't looked, that offensive line still doesn't look any better than it did last year. But if I got to trust one quarterback in that division, it's got to be Andrew Luck. I'm going to say at number 5, certainly the Raiders. I think they're definitely getting into the playoffs. If not, something went totally wrong there. And I think the Bengals sneak in at number 6. And so that's your playoffs for all of us here.
And yes, Kansas City lost in the divisional round to those cheating Patriots.
So now, here we go. Sort of go through your bracket here.
All right. Well, that means the next round I've got Arizona facing off against Washington. And I think Arizona is going to take care of business, of course. I really feel like that's going to be pretty okay. Seattle is going to face Dallas, and they are going to win. They're going to beat Dallas. So that takes care of that. Going to the AFC, I feel like Cincinnati is going to face off against the Jets, and the Jets are going to pull it off and beat Cincinnati. And then I've got Indianapolis versus Oakland, and Oakland is going to win that game.
You're just doing the first round each? Okay.
I just figured we were.
No, perfect.
Oh, no,
right.
Go ahead and go through your thing, Gary, because that makes it a lot easier for people to sort of digest, I think.
Okay, so I got I have Arizona winning. And I'm just trying to think how that goes in the seeding. Arizona would be Green Bay.
They don't reseed, right?
No.
Okay, that's why I was just double checking.
Top seed will play the bottom seed. Do you have Carolina or Green Bay as your
Carolina is my top seed, and
so Carolina would play Arizona. Carolina would play Arizona.
Yeah, so Carolina wins. That's all we need to know about that. And then that means that Seattle would play my other top team, which is the who else did I had here?
Packers.
Sorry, Packers. Yes, and Packers will beat Seattle. So I got Carolina winning, going to the Super Bowl.
What about the AFC?
Okay, AFC. All right, let's break this down real quick. I had Cincinnati So Cincinnati would be facing no. I have the Jets beating Cincinnati, so the Jets will be facing New England. New England wins. They'll find a way. And then, of course, I had Oakland winning, and they'll face off against Kansas City. Oakland's going to surprise. New England versus Carolina. Super Bowl. I got Carolina.
All right, Randy.
I don't want to... Hold on, I'm just finishing up this. Okay. So, in my bracket, NFC, I have Arizona over the Giants. I just think they're a better team. Can Seattle pull the upset against Washington on the road? Going that far. They're really good in the postseason. But I'm going to take Washington to beat Seattle in the wild card game. No missed field goals this year against the Seahawks to let them move on. That would put Washington against Green Bay. I think Green Bay is just better. So I'm going to have Green Bay beat Washington. Carolina over Arizona. We saw what happened the last time they played in the playoffs. A complete bloody mess. I think the same thing happens. I have Carolina winning there. And then Green Bay over Carolina to reach the Super Bowl. In the AFC, I'm with Gary. I think the Jets could beat Cincinnati. Obviously, Andy Dalton is not great come playoff time, and a good defense like the Jets could make things tough. I do like Pittsburgh over Jacksonville as they take that next step forward with Pittsburgh. Just the pedigree of that team is much better. And then I have the Jets against Kansas City. Kind of the same thing. They're kind of the same team, really. Good defenses, game manager, quarterback. Yes, Arrowhead's a lot to overcome, but I think the Jets actually have a bit more talent there. And call this homer if you want, but I think the Jets could upset Kansas City if this scenario fell through. So I'll have the Jets win there, and I will have New England at home being able to hold off Pittsburgh and then being able to beat the Jets in the AFC Championship game. And I have Green Bay over New England in the Super Bowl.
And Sean, this is difficult, I know, because it's. I didn't plan to do all the seeding and all that. I didn't know we were doing. So.
Yeah, I'm sitting here trying to do this right now, and I'm.
Okay, sorry, I got it typed out for you, Sean, already.
Shoot. Well, all right. So. Okay, mine's gonna be a little bit of a shocker to everybody when we get there.
Dallas in the Super Bowl.
No, not doing that. So, okay, starting in the NFC, so I've got the Cowboys losing to the Panthers in the first round. I've got the Seahawks beating the Giants. That would mean that the Packers play the Seahawks. I think the Packers get by there. And I think Arizona gets by Carolina, which they couldn't do last year. And I think Arizona gets by the Packers, which they couldn't do last year. I'm playing a little bit of WWE booking here. We're going to have them overcome all the odds. And Arizona gets the Super Bowl.
Arizona beat Green Bay last year. And the craziest game I've ever seen in my life.
Green Bay almost freaking won last year.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
I just Russo'd your booking.
Oh, damn it. Freaking swerving me. So I'm gonna go with Arizona. Sorry if you do not get the wrestling references. So I'm gonna go in the AFC. I've got the Chiefs over the Bengals, and I've got the Raiders upsetting the Colts. Then I've got so it would be the Raiders upsetting the Steelers. And I've got the Chiefs doing what they couldn't do last year. They beat the New England Patriots. And I've got the Chiefs winning over the Raiders in an AFC West championship game. And it's Arizona and Kansas City. And I've got the Cardinals winning the freaking Super Bowl. So that's not going to happen probably, but why not?
Hey.
The confidence we just went out of Sean as he was saying it. I love it. But you say it with conviction.
Arizona's going to win the damn Super Bowl, guys.
There you go.
Fitzgerald graduates college and gets a Super Bowl ring.
Man,
Life
that would
couldn't
be
be
awesome,
better.
since he got it stolen from him all those years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, guys, that's it. We made our playoff picks. And now that's it. Now all we have to do is, on Thursday, we'll get to frickin' talk about an actual NFL game that matters, guys. An NFL game that matters. Carolina-Denver rematch, and then we'll get to preview Week 1. How awesome is that? I'm so excited for this NFL season to be starting. We already talked about college. You can hear us talk about recapping Week 1 and doing our first ever Top 25 poll. That was a lot of fun to talk about, too. Hope you enjoyed our power rankings and all that.
Before you move on, we need to make that pick for Thursday night, because it will be after Thursday.
Oh, yes, we do need to make that pick for Thursday night. I think Carolina's going to come in with a vengeance. This is going to be too much for Trevor Siemian. And I trust Cam Newton over Trevor Siemian. I think Cam Newton's going to make sure that he lets a fire into that team to make sure they don't look bad again.
Now I forget if this was a rumor or not. Did they made the dabbing illegal, right? They made that a penalty, or was that just a rumor?
I don't remember them saying it is totally illegal.
I've not.
I forget if there. It was, I heard it might be a penalty, but then it could have just been a rumor. If it is a penalty, I say Cam Newton comes out with 3 new moves that become addicting, and piss off everyone else. I think Carolina rolls over Denver.
Oh, man. Yeah, this is going to be really sad. Simeon's going to throw 6 touchdowns, and Carolina goes, no, I'm lying. Carolina's rolls. There's no way. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I kid. But, I feel bad for Simeon. First game, a real situation, and he's going to go home wishing that he could go back to the preseason.
All right. Well, that's it. Now we did make that pick. Hopefully we'll have something big to announce as well on Friday when we do the show again. So until then, everybody, see you later.